We updated our Cornerstone rankings after the rookie draft. Now we're going to do it again because honestly, most of the changes with these Cornerstone rankings are with these rookies. So we're going to rank them really among their peers and the veteran guys in here. There have been some changes though, including in our S tier here. There is, I think the only comment we got on our last set of Cornerstone rankings that was like, the biggest thing people would change, we really didn't get a ton. It seemed like you guys pretty much agreed with us. The one thing though that we got that was a little bit popular was that people said, okay, Bauer should be in the S tier, and we did an S1, S2 tier. And so, you know what, nobody really argued for Genty, nobody really argued for London. So I was like, okay, fine. I think it's probably just smart to move Bowers up. Not to mention, from the time we recorded that video until now, Bowers has been going in the first round of Dynasty startup drafts. And so I think it's warranted to put Bowers in there, especially in tight end premium leagues. But when you're looking at his volume, he's essentially receiver, right? I mean, from a volume standpoint, he would be a high-end wide receiver as well, but playing the tight end position, he's up there with these guys, Neighbors, BTJ, Puka, Bijan, Gibbs, and Bowers. And I'm curious, drop in the comments if you think that Malik Neighbors should actually be in his own tier here, because I think you can make an argument to say Neighbors is clearly the best guy out of this tier. In fact, I would never take BTJ, Puka, Bijan, Gibbs, or Bowers over Neighbors, ever. So by that definition, by our own definition that I just laid down, he's in his own tier. So maybe we end up doing that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that's how we look at tiers. Are you ever taking any of those guys over Neighbors?
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm not.
I honestly, in all my startups, I have never been on the tail end this year, so I've never had a chance.
So, but again, like even if faced with a choice, I think everybody would take Neighbors there, not only from a market value standpoint, but all these guys here are elite. BTJ is elite, Puka is elite, Bijan and Gibbs are both elite. I mean, again, if you're building a team around any of these S tier guys, you're in really good shape. These are guys that you want as your cornerstone in Dynasty fantasy football.
Yeah, so A tier, we're gonna have Genty and London. I mean, we just did a wide receiver rankings video where we had London in the same tier as BCJ and Puka. Honestly, I think we stand by that when we're looking at positional stuff in terms of cornerstones. Like, I think that you kind of have to acknowledge the market value gap between guys like Genty and London who are going middle to tail end of the second round versus everyone in the S tier going no later than like 1-2 turn. So with Genty and London, I think they're both honestly pretty much just as safe as a lot of the guys in the S tier. They're probably going to be going in the top 30 picks of Dynasty startup drafts for the next 3 years at least. That's why they're cornerstones. That's why we think they're very reliable. Genty obviously is the one that has yet to prove it, but I think at this point we're very confident that he's going to be able to. He's going to get every opportunity to really be the lead, not just a lead back there. He obviously is going to be the lead back there, but he could be the lead weapon there. I mean, as good as Bowers is, in a Pete Carroll offense, they could be a run-first offense where Genty is getting the bulk of the opportunities in that offense consistently.
B tier here, we've got a trio of wide receivers. We kind of separated this tier out. What we've really seen is these three wide receivers going consistently over guys in the C tier. If we can go ahead and show the C tier now, we can kind of show this. But Marv, JSN, and Ladd McConkey. And you can order these guys any way you want. I would probably, personally, if I had to rank them again, I would take all of these guys in certain situations. I would give JSN and Ladd a little bit of an edge because they've done it. But again, we see Marv go first out of this group all the time. I also see Ladd go first out of this group. I've also seen JSN go first out of this group. So it's really like these are three guys that, Marv has the most upside out of this group for sure. He was the best prospect out of this group, but JSN and Ladd have proven it. They've done it, and they're great assets for your Dynasty fantasy football team. And so you don't feel bad about any of these guys. I think they're from a 3-year outlook perspective, Marv obviously has to take a step forward. JSN, we're unsure about with Darnold. Otherwise, he'd probably be a little bit higher here. And Ladd McConkey's pretty safe, but his upside's just limited. And so, although, upside's limited is relative. I mean, Ladd was great last year. And so all three of these guys look fantastic right now. And all three of them, by the way, I don't know if you've seen Ladd McConkey's reception perception, if we could put it on the screen, but it is absolutely fantastic. He has, I think, by all measures, proven that he is an elite wide receiver in the NFL, and there's really no way around it. He's at the 83rd percentile against man coverage, 78th against zone, and 98th percentile against press coverage. And so that points towards an amazing route runner that has great yak ability, playing on a good offense where the situation is sustainable. And so, all three of these guys, I think, have kind of earned their flowers as guys that you want in the second to third round of your Dynasty startup drafts.
Yeah, so C tier is going to start with Hampton, Hunter, and Tet. If you guys remember the updated rookie rankings video that we did recently, these three guys, we put all of them in the same tier. I think before the NFL draft, we were expecting the 102 and the 103 to be in the same tier. We ended up having Hampton and Hunter in the same tier. And now we've brought in Tet there because, again, we've seen Tet go over both of these guys at some points in a lot of startup drafts, market value, etc. I think the reason all three of these guys are not in the same tier as Marv, JSN, and Ladd, even though they're being drafted kind of in the same range. Is they're unproven. They're rookies, right? And they do have to take that next step and show us that they can play at the NFL level, not even at the most elite possible level as a rookie, but just show something, right? Like Marv just had to show something, and he did. And he had like just under 1,000 receiving yards or like 900 receiving yards. And he showed really good flashes, good target volume. And yeah, there are still questions there, but like he's done something so far. We just need Hampton, Hunter, and Tet to show a little bit. And honestly, they all have a very good avenue, a very good route to end up in the A tier, I think, this time next year. So Devon Achane, I think at this point, everyone just is baking into his price the fact that he's going to miss some time every single year. And he honestly, his production is kind of directly tied to if Tua is going to be on the field or not. And that is just an additional concern that you're going to have to add on to his profile already. Nice thing about Achane is his floor is pretty high when Tua is on the field, because he's playing in so many of those passing down sets. And he doesn't get a ridiculous amount of rushing volume, but that target volume is very Alvin Kamara-esque. He's just so explosive as a receiver, and is still only 23 years old, heading into the third year of his career at the NFL. So with Raheem Mostert now out of that offense, Alexander Mattison joining, Jalen Wright is now the second option there. I don't think there's a ton of like crazy upside that he's going to have to compete with behind him that like Mostert showcased in 2023. He's really going to be the guy there for the foreseeable future. And then Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is relatively safe in terms of his 3-year outlook. The situation isn't safe, but Garrett Wilson has just shown that he's going to continue to command target volume regardless of who's playing quarterback there. And as much as we dog on Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson was productive with Tim Boyle at the helm, and Justin Fields is a little bit better than Tim Boyle. So he's quarterback proof. He's one of the few proven quarterback proof wide receivers that we've seen year in and year out just be productive. And while his ceiling might not be a mid to high end wide receiver 1 this year, he could still be a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. And then after that, it's anyone's guess where he's going to be playing, whether it's with the Jets or somewhere else long term. What we do know, regardless, is that he's a phenomenal route runner. He commands target volume consistently, and he's very reliable. So,
dropping down to the D tier here, we're going to have a bunch of running backs and a wide receiver. We've got 2 guys here that were just drafted pretty early in the second round, and that's great draft capital for running backs. It's Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Very high on both of these backs. Both of them go to situations where they're pretty much on the backfield. Both of them have great skill sets. They have 3 down skill sets, and I think both of them are going to get a fair amount of work in their rookie year for the next 3 years. We really like these guys. Again, remember, as we're doing these rankings, we're ranking these guys for 3-year outlooks. And so Judkins, Henderson are great. Bucky Irving, I love Bucky Irving. He's one of the best running backs I've ever seen. He's amazing. I would never say anything negative about him. He's awesome. He does no wrong. He should be ranked super high in Dynasty, this high actually, within this D tier here. I have no negative things to say about Bucky, and if you want to rank Bucky in the S tier, you go right ahead. And then Rome Odunze. With Rome,
high ground there. That was good.
Yeah, no, I just want to just
the high ground.
You just put out fires before they even start.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
It's the wildfire. Rome Odunze. Again, we believe in Rome. And this is where he's going, though, in startups, is around these guys. And he really is the last wide receiver, like, before the tier drop-off. And so we like Rome. We do think he's going to be higher next year, but he has to prove it first, and we know that.
Yeah, F tier, Breece Hall. Look, with Breece, I think we've kind of exhausted his situation at this point and what we project from him this season. He's been a running back 2 before, like running back 2 overall. And again, we've also said this before. That was 17.1 points per game, running back 2 overall in 2023 in a down running back season. If, he hasn't really he's shown consistency in terms of points per game, but he hasn't shown anything like elite for us to say like, hey, I really want to take him over Devon Achane, who's in a couple tiers above him, or I really want to take him over these guys like Judkins and Henderson who have a few extra years on their rookie deal. Like Breece Hall at this point is going into the 4th year of his rookie deal, and there's nothing guaranteed after that. So we'll see what happens with him. But again, in terms of his 3-year outlook, like even if he doesn't get your dream running back deal for a high-end running back, like he's still going to get an opportunity somewhere, and hopefully, ideally, a better situation than the Jets. And I think he's capable of being successful elsewhere long term. We have another year with him being on the Jets and Justin Fields, who's a rushing upside QB. There's just a lot of unknowns in that situation with the running backs. Not to mention Braylon Allen started eating into his workload last season. Kyron Williams, same sort of situation here. Going into the last year of his deal, there's been rumors about him getting extended. He's optimistic that a deal is going to get done. You obviously know the history of running backs getting deals in Sean McVay offenses. Is McVay really going to be willing to sign Kyron after he just drafted Jarquez Hunter? Hunter's maybe looking decent in rookie minicamp, which, that means a lot, but we honestly don't really know. But I will say, again, very similar to Breece Hall, long-term, like Kyron, if he's not a Ram, he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to get plenty of opportunity and volume elsewhere. I am optimistic, much more optimistic than Breece, though, that he's going to stay in his situation, and that really is ideal for Kyron Williams. Tyler Warren, I've seen him go as high as like the middle of the 4th round in Dynasty startups, which to me is on the higher end of where I would take him. In fact, that's a bit too high for where I'd be comfortable taking him, but I understand the rationale, and I understand people's excitement with Warren, because even though we're not comping him to Bowers, and even though people I don't think are comping him to Bowers, the situation is very reminiscent in that you've got a kind of a run-heavy offense where they don't really have a strong passing game. Not only do they not have a strong passing game, they have a terrible passing game with terrible quarterbacks. And tight ends, especially versatile tight ends that have like elite production upside and a skill set like Tyler Warren, they really can thrive in that situation. We just saw it last year. And I know, again, Warren as a prospect is not Brock Bowers, but there's a reason that people are being so, they're pushing him up boards much higher than Colston Loveland, and it's because of that situation. And I'll tell you what, guys, like if he puts up a really solid season as a rookie tight end this year, he's going to be a top 2 round Dynasty startup pick. Emeka Egbuka is going to be right behind him here. He's more of like your safe pick where, like even if he has a mediocre season, like 700-800 yards, he's probably going to maintain, have a little bit of dip in value, but he's not going to fall much because people are giving him the benefit of the doubt while Evans and Godwin are still in that wide receiver room. Evans will be out next year. Egbuka will be in and have a chance to take over that lead role with Baker Mayfield, who provides a ridiculous amount of volume. Xavier Worthy, we're going to guess that he's going to be, in terms of production, the second guy there. Schematically, I think he's the 1B to Rashee Rice's 1A, since Rashee Rice is the slot. Xavier Worthy is very versatile in his usage on the field, but as a route runner, he doesn't have a ton of versatility there. So he is going to, his bread and butter is going to be with his speed and outrunning people, and that's going to be taking the top off of defenses. That's going to be utilized in the backfield. Hopefully, still, that would be great. He's going to be a gadget, do-it-all type of guy for the Chiefs, and that's a good thing given their scheme and how they like to utilize him and what he demonstrated in his playoff run last season.
The G tier for our Cornerstone rankings will start with the tight end in Sam Laporta. Laporta, in the last 8 weeks last year of his season, looked like Laporta that it was in his rookie season. That was incredible. That was a 2-3 turn pick in Dynasty startup drafts that we were advocating for in the 3rd round. He ended up losing some value, but again, still a 5th round pick. And I think if he, does what he did at the end of last year, he's easily a 3rd round pick in Dynasty startups again. And so he's honestly a decent pick. I think he could be one of the better players in this tier because he is, we know what his ceiling is, and he could easily be a D tier or C tier level guy here if he is playing at that level. Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey, 2 rookie running backs that we have, we told you analytically we prefer Caleb Johnson. A lot of people are going to make the argument that Harvey should be ranked lower because of J.K. Dobbins, and to that I say, psh. And I don't think it affects Harvey's 3-year outlook. Again, we're playing Dynasty in 3-year outlooks. Yes, maybe it takes a little bit of a ding in production this year. Maybe he takes, but for the next 3 years, I don't feel any differently about Harvey than I did before they signed J.K. Dobbins. For 3, I don't. I mean, and again, like Dobbins is not like a guy like consistently stayed on the field and made a difference, right? I mean, so keep that in mind. And Caleb Johnson, again, Jalen Warren, kind of the same thing. Like Jalen Warren has had plenty of opportunities to be like a super fantasy productive back, and he hasn't been. Why would they have drafted Caleb Johnson if they were really going to give Jalen Warren all the work there? Why would they have done that? It makes no sense. So I like both those guys, and both their 3-year outlooks I think are good. I think those guys could easily increase in value as well. Jordan Addison's probably not going to increase in value. This is more of a, hey, we think he's going to maintain, and also he has high upside. But he plays in an offense where, yes, J.J. McCarthy's going to be the quarterback, obviously going to be different this year. But from a fantasy football perspective, again, the touchdown upside, the big play upside, the playing along Justin Jefferson and schematic things that come along with that allow him to be a very fantasy viable option. And so on your dynasty teams, we like him as like your wide receiver 4 or 5. And if you can pull that off, he's a very good cornerstone asset. Not necessarily somebody you're building around, but somebody that, you would consider a cornerstone in the sense that he does meet the age requirements and he is going to be on your Dynasty roster contributing and probably maintaining his value for the next 3 or so years. And so we like him. We like his situation as well. H-tier.
H-tier going to start with Loveland. We've been seeing him go in the middle of the 7th round consistently in startups, obviously because of the situation, how crowded it is there. Can't deny that he was a top 10 pick and had a very good prospect profile. Everyone was expecting him to go middle of the 1st round in the NFL draft, and he did. He went even higher than a lot of people were anticipating there. So at the end of the day, it's like, again, it's a good and bad landing spot. The situation is great in terms of the talent that's going to be there, both on the coaching side and, the quarterback side with Caleb Williams. Bad because of how many mouths there are to feed. So we'll see what he can do this year. We would anticipate he's probably going to start out pretty slow in terms of production. Zay Flowers is just, he's like a high floor guy, kind of, because he's the top option there. He gets a decent amount of volume, but like his ceiling is just so capped because they don't give him red zone targets. I think he had like 4 red zone targets last year. He hauled in all of them, and that's it. That's all he got all year. He is not utilized that way for them. They give the ball to Henry, they run the ball with Lamar, or they pass the ball to Mark Andrews, who had a ridiculous amount of red zone targets last year, or Likely, or even Bateman. So Flowers is kind of the afterthought there in the red zone, which caps his ceiling. Chris Olave, the concussion issues have been exhausted at this point. Really, the reason that he's going to be in this tier is not even for that. It's just like, hey, we need him to finally produce at the level that he's demonstrated in the past in a situation that has major questions. Kellen Moore is the head coach there. Tyler Shuck is a mid-second rounder that he's got plenty of injury questions in his own right, dating all the way back to his beginning days in college. He was backing up Justin Herbert. That's how long he's been in college. With Shuck, there's plenty of questions there. Shaheed coming back from injury, he was very productive when he was playing last season. And then you've got Kamara, their run game. It's just one of the ugliest situations to be in, honestly, in the NFL right now, and Olave's right in the middle of it. We'll see what he can do this season, though. Matthew Golden, let's be patient with Golden this year. He really is kind of the raw wide receiver of the group in this rookie class this year. And how Green Bay is with their picks year in and year out, whether they're wide receivers, whether they're defensive guys, offensive line. They like to draft and develop for a couple of years before they really give them a stupid amount of opportunity. Jaden Reed, I think, was one of the biggest surprises that we'd seen in quite a while outside of Christian Watson's 4-week run at the end of his rookie year. But with Golden, he still does have the chance and the opportunity to get plenty of volume there right out the gate because no one really is taking over that alpha role, and he has the upside and the talent to do that. I would pump the brakes a little bit and be patient. They're still going to probably run their offense through Jacobs primarily and then go from there. Kenneth Walker, still so gosh dang young. He's only like 24 years old, and he just has to stay healthy when he's on the field. He has really, really good games, and he has really, really bad games even when he's on the field. So the receiving upside and capabilities aren't really there consistently. And then you have Charbonnet to worry about, which regardless of your opinion on Charbonnet, he does eat into Walker's consistent opportunity and just consistency in terms of weekly production. So that being said, if Walker falls to a point in your startups where he's going 7th, 8th round, it's worth taking him there, and we've seen him fall at that point. I think it's worth it.
I tier here. We're going to start with George Pickens. Again, Pickens is still young. He's going to a new team with a new quarterback, and he's going to be most comfortable in the role he'll be in Dallas as a wide receiver 2 alongside an elite route running wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb. So we're interested to see what it does to his career. We think he's a decent pickup right now for flex spots. Honestly, George Pickens is not a bad asset to own in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Jameson Williams is kind of a similar situation. JMO obviously had a really good year last year, and so we're a little bit more reserved on JMO's expectation going into this year, simply because, we've made the argument, I think some of those deep targets, without Ben Johnson could end up being taken away. However, with their new offensive coordinator, I saw some stat that was talking about how much they actually throw it down the field with him. And people expect Goff to actually throw it down the field more. And so that's an interesting take. Analytically, there's some merit to it. I did look into it. There's some merit to that. And so I don't really blame you if you think JMO, if you're calling your shot there and you say schematically, hey, they're actually going to throw to JMO more. JMO's good. We know JMO's talented.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of
he
the
just
volume.
Has to get the target volume.
But if he gets the volume, then he could be awesome. So Josh Downs gets the volume. He needs to stay healthy, and also he's in a bad situation. But we have him as one of our breakouts, our buy lows. We really like Josh Downs, and so we put him firmly in here with some of these other wide receivers. The rookies, Burden and Higgins. Higgins obviously being the 2 in Houston, but being paired with Nico Collins is obviously a great pairing, and Nico has had issues staying on the field, and Higgins would be the 1 in that standpoint. And Luther Burden, we really don't have super high expectations for at this point this year, but from a 3-year outlook standpoint, he's a good enough talent. He's good enough in space. He could easily end up carving out a role there in the Chicago Bears offense in the next 3 years. Cam Scadaboo, we have him a tier above Tootin because I think there's a clearer path for him to become the starter quickly. And so we think that Scadaboo is going to take over that starting role. It's just a prediction. You can have your own prediction. And if you disagree, it's totally okay. But we're pretty confident that Scadaboo is going to be the guy there. And at the point where he could also be due for a dynasty value increase as well. And then Ricky Pearsall. Ricky, there's a lot to like about Ricky Pearsall, and there's some to dislike. The dislike is, his production profile. I think the type of receiver he isn't typically the type of receiver that you're going to see be a super high volume guy and that turn into fantasy points, especially in PPR leagues. You do like his reception perception profile, though. It's a limited sample size, but it did provide us some good data to give us a case on Ricky Pearsall we hadn't really looked at before. So Ricky's just riskier, but he honestly deserves to be talked about, and a lot of people are higher on him, and I understand. And a lot of people don't like him, and I understand that. We really don't super know with Ricky Pearsall. We weren't high on him at first, and now we're kind of like, so you can make your own decision about Ricky Pearsall, but I think he belongs in this I tier because of the upside he does have.
All right, last tier here is going to be a smaller one. It's Tootin, Harris, and Keon. So 2 rookies here. Bashul Tootin. We still are calling our shot with Tootin. I think Tootin is ultimately going to take over that role in Jacksonville, where again he was drafted actually a pick or 2 over Scadaboo at the beginning of the 4th rounds, and Liam Cohen in that front office has no loyalty to Travis Etienne or Tank Bigsby, and they have shown nothing, absolutely nothing, to really solidify being the running back 1 or even the running back 2 over Tootin. So it's going to be an all-out battle, I think, in training camp to see if Tootin can take over that job, because he will have to earn it. You obviously have the veteran experience of Etienne and Bigsby, so they'll give him the benefit of the doubt to start out. You saw that like with Bucky Irving last year, right, where Bucky showed some nice flashes in training camp, and then they eased him in heading into the season, and then he just took the opportunity and ran with it and took over Rachaad White's job. You could see something similar this year with Tootin, and he'll have to earn that over Bigsby and ETN. But again, I think long term he's going to get that opportunity. Trey Harris, you've seen the usage for running backs and wide receivers together in Greg Roman offenses. It's not pretty, even with the top options at those respective positions. The second option at wide receiver is essentially non-existent. We're not counting on much in terms of production with Trey Harris this year. It would have to be it would have to be an outlier of a season in a Greg Roman offense for him to be very successful, or Ladd McConkey would have to get hurt and he would have to be the top option, take over Quentin Johnston's role and all that stuff. So not as high on Harris as some people are. I think Keon Coleman is just very raw, very developmental. His reception perception was abysmal. Even as a developmental guy, he was worse than I think a lot of people expected. Again, the athleticism, no one's denying that. We even see some opportunity and have seen some flashes in the past of Keon and what he might be capable of doing there, but he just needs to grow up a little bit at the NFL level and really kind of take advantage of these chances that he's getting, because there's not going to be many of them left until they decide to move on.
So we thought we'd update these rankings. Let us know where you agree, where you disagree, who you would move up or down. But this is how I think we think it sits right now, and we're about to have training camp and then the preseason and then the season, and we're actually going to have some changes to this based on actual merit here fairly quickly. The season is coming very quickly. And so make sure your Dynasty team is ready. If you want Nathan and I to take a look at it, give you a second opinion, we can give you a team blueprint, we'll give you your team archetype, your 3-year outlook, whether you should contend or rebuild this year. And then also all the moves that correspond with those things. You want to make sure you have a good plan for your Dynasty team, and we can personalize it for your specific team, your specific league settings, your specific current roster, all of that and more. You get all the tools that come with that. You get a free one with the annual Mother Flocker tier with code DOMAIN. You can do that Links in the pinned comments so you can come join the community and again unlock everything we offer. But drop a like, make sure you subscribed if you appreciated the video. We appreciate you guys a ton. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you here soon.